Loma Linda University. We have a great program in herpetology especially. All right, so I'm going to introduce you to some of the critters in our lab, and I'll introduce you first to John here. He has pet rattles, the booth over there with rattlesnakes. He does rattlesnake avoidance training and birthday parties and all kinds of stuff here in Nevada. If you're in California, I do it over in California. So, all right. Okay, this lovely creature is the dreaded water moccasin from the southeastern coastal plains. This is the one you hear all the stories about where they supposedly chase you down while you're swimming and whatever other nonsense you might have heard. And that's basically what it is. When you first approach these, they coil up in a tight coil, tilt their head back, open the mouth, and expose the white interior, which is where they get their other name cottonmouth from. Cottonmouths are pit vipers, which means they have a heat-sensing pit between the eye and the nostril. And in the swamps and bogs where they live in the blackest of nights, they get a beautiful 3D infrared image of everything going on around them. But it's been shown that the pit also does something else that's really cool. It can detect net negative and net positive charges. And that's important because a really warm lizard is going to have a net negative charge. A rodent's going to have a net positive charge. So not only do they get the outline of the shape, but they also can tell what kind of critter they're about to sink their fangs into. And being a pit viper, they have really long fangs that fold up against the roof of their mouth, so when they bite, the venom is injected deeply. Pit vipers and vipers have very large venom proteins, so they have a special additive in there that kind of acts like a meat cleaver on your tissue, breaking things up so the rest of the venom can get in there and do its job. So if you were bitten by this lovely creature, within about an hour or so, your hand would start turning black and blue and be swollen to maybe 3 times its normal size. Within a couple hours, your whole arm would be involved in that. So if you were to use one of those little cute snake bite kits from Bass Pro or Cabela's and you cut tiny little holes and you go to suck venom, the only thing you're really going to get is probably some of your own body fluids because of that special additive moving that venom along. And number 2, when your hand is 3 times its normal size, no blood flow, you're going to have big gaping holes inviting gangrene and you're going to start losing body parts. So the best thing that you could ever do, the only thing you should ever do if you get bitten by a snake is call 911, get to the hospital, and get antivenom. It's the only thing that works. Everything else you do, tourniquets, ice, all those things, it's going to make everything much, much worse. These guys are kind of interesting because about 10% of the population is parthenogenic. When I caught her in the Florida Everglades, she was a baby. She's never been with another snake, let alone another cottonmouth, but yet she's dropped 3 litters of babies. Kind of cool. Anyone want to scratch it under their chin? Some crazy, crazy people here. Beautiful critter is a rhinoceros viper from equatorial Africa. These guys have a venom that acts a whole lot like that cottonmouth. They have the really long fangs that fold up against the roof of their mouth, but they're not pit vipers. They don't have the heat-sensing pits. These guys are heavy-bodied vipers, as you can see, so they're ambush predators. They'll sit along, wait for something to run by, reach out, give it a nice kiss. The advantage to being venomous is you bite and release, so your prey is not biting back, kicking you, or fighting back. It's released, it runs off and dies, and then because the chemical signature of the animal that was just bitten is changed by the bite, they use their really sensitive tongue to follow that specific odor. So even if another animal runs across the path, they're not deterred. They go to the one that they bit. So it's a threefold advantage. First, it protects the snake because he bites and releases. Second, it kills the prey. And third, provides a tracking tag. Pretty handy stuff. Defensive bites are the last thing any venomous snake wants to do. If you were to run up on this in the wild, it would freeze, hoping you'd walk by and not even notice it. Anywhere you are in the world, if you see a venomous snake and you don't want to get out and play, take 2 steps back, walk around, leave it alone. Most people bitten are either trying to catch them or kill them. If you just back up and leave them alone, they'll go their own way. That's a beautiful snake though, isn't it? You guys probably can't see the really long horns on their face, but they're really cool.
Matthew, say hey. No. You can ask him questions after.
Oh, very friendly. He wants to reach out and touch someone, I promise. Anyway, cobras are not vipers or pit vipers. They have really short, fixed fangs in the front, but they make up for that by having really small venom proteins that zip through your body really quickly. So if you were bitten by Rupert within an hour, your breathing would be really, really distressed. Within maybe a couple hours, you probably wouldn't be breathing at all. So a lot of you, of course, have seen the snake charmers with their flute, but cobras are deaf to airborne sounds also. What the snake charmers know is that the cobra strikes down and forward about as far as he's hooded up. So they stay just out of range, and the cobra follows the motion. That's what's really going on. This is a black Pakistani Cobra. I've been using these guys, I don't know, for about 25 years in my shows, you know, and you have the tie-red cross anti-venom and you figure you're okay if you get bit. Until last year when the Pakistani delegation was visiting Loma Linda and informed us all that they're trying to make an anti-venom that works on these because the stuff doesn't work. Well, that's great to hear after 25 years, let me tell you. Not cool. But he's a very cool snake, isn't he? Anyone want to scratch him on the head?
No thanks.
I want to scratch him.
Ooh, maybe that's not a good idea. All right. Okay. Now this little sweetheart doesn't look like much to you, but actually, this snake can kill about 100 people with one bite. This is an inland taipan from the outback of Australia. It is the world's most toxic snake. In fact, it is 8 times more toxic than number 2, the Belcher sea snake. Their venom does a whole lot of really cool things to you all at once. It has a very powerful vasodilator, so your blood pressure drops and helps you to pass out. Then another part of the venom makes your aorta and all your arteries very leaky, while another part of the venom uses up all your coagulants, so you bleed from everywhere. And just in case you might survive drowning in your own blood, it has the most powerful presynaptic neurotoxin of any snake on the planet. And just for good measure, it also has a really potent postsynaptic neurotoxin. So you might wonder, why would a snake need something that toxic? Well, where these guys live in the outback of Australia, they feed on plague rats, which would happily take the head off of most snakes. And they also feed on bandicoots, which eat snakes. So they need a really good knockout punch, and nature gave them one. That being said, only 5 people have ever been bitten by one. All 5 were handling them, which shows you how stupid I really am, huh? But anyway, all 5 survived with anti-venom treatment. A friend of mine, David Williams in Australia that works with anti-venom development, told me that if you get bitten by this and you get anti-venom within 4 to 5 hours, you're going to be just fine. Well, then you have to wonder, well, what about all those 2-step snakes, 100-pacer snake stories that you hear and all that other stuff? Well, that's just it. It's just stories. The only way you can die instantly from snake bite is if you're allergic to the venom and go into anaphylactic shock, like people that are allergic to bees. The first time a bee stings, you get a free ride. The second time, maybe not. And it's the same with snakes. So if you have no exposure to them, have never been bitten by one before, and you get bit, there's no reason to do anything crazy. Just call 911. To emphasize the point, right before I moved out here, there was a guy in Kentucky, got bitten on his big toe by a timber rattlesnake, freaks out, runs in the house, grabs a shotgun, shoots his toe off, and bleeds to death on the way to the hospital. Which is why we give out Darwin Awards, right? Don't get one. Call 911. It's much easier. Okay, so as valuable as these guys are in the wild, you know, eating playgrounds, the honest to God truth is we all know that the best use for an inland taipan is a stocking stuffer for that someone very special. My next snake, I want to talk a little bit about it first. It's a western diamondback rattlesnake. They're arguably one of the most dangerous snakes in North America for a few reasons. Number one, they get to a very large size, so of course they have a lot of venom. They're very nervous snakes. They are very apt to bite. They are pit vipers, so they have the heat-sensing pit, the long fangs that fold up against the roof of their mouth. They have a really wide range through the U.S., all the way from eastern Texas up into Arkansas to Coachella Valley in California. And so most snake bites every year are attributed to this species. You've probably heard a few different things. How many have heard that it's better to be bitten by an adult snake than a baby? How many have heard that? Okay. What if I told you that a study my professor did showed that that originated in Southern California? Do you really think you should believe it? No. Yeah. No.
Nope.
The idea is that they say baby snakes can't control the venom, so they'll give it all to you. Well, even so, do you want to be bitten by something with the head the size of a dime or a grapefruit? Just think about that a second. You know? But the truth is, all venomous snakes from birth can control their venom flow, and they do each side separately. And they have to. That's how they get their food. So if a baby rattlesnake bites a lizard, the lizard runs off and a crow eats it. What's going to wait 2 weeks to try again? You can't. So whether it's a defensive bite or a predatory bite, they give the least amount needed to get the job done, which is good news for you if you happen to get bit. But try not to. A lot of you have heard that you can tell the age of a rattlesnake by the number of segments. Not true either. As babies grow, they shed. Every time they shed, which could be 3-4 times a year, they add a new segment. After they start getting 6-8 segments out there in the wild, they start breaking off from catching on things from wear. As an adult, they may shed once a year, or in northern latitudes, once every 2 years, so they're not being replaced as fast as they're being taken out. So you can't use that to tell. The rattle itself has no fairy dust in it, no beads, no poison. It's just loosely interlocked segments, vibrate at a very high rate. It's one of the fastest vertebrate movements on the planet, and they can do it for up to 3 hours without fatigue. And what I want to do is demonstrate the speed of the strike for you. And some species have been clocked at up to 60 feet per second. That's really fast. And think